after I have everything cut out, then with these flamingos, I'm going to go ahead and actually put them together before I put them on the quilt. So I have my layout sheet here, and I've got this little Teflon sheet that you can see through really easily. So this is a nice little thing that the pieces won't stick to this as I use the iron to actually fasten the little pieces together. So I'm going to work on the first flamingo here, and I just kind of put all the pieces out on my sheet, and I'm going to put them down in order. So I'm going to start with this little leg piece, that's the 1A, and peel off the paper backing. And I'm going to just lay this in place on my pattern template here. Get it situated there, and then I'm going to do the piece 1B now and peel off the paper. And lay it carefully down on top, kind of where I want it. One of the things I sometimes will do at this point is take just the tip of my iron to just kind of hold these in place. I'm just going to tack it, and those will stay in place for me now. Okay, so see how they're wiggling around with the thing. I want to make sure I have that lined up again. Now I'm going with 1C. And I'll put this one here in place. You can see that even with tracing, you know, some of my lines still show I don't have it exact, but you know that's still going to work out just fine in the end. Okay, I know I need to fasten it to these legs right here, so I'm going to take a moment and just, again, I'm just going to tack it down. I'm not wanting it to actually, I'm not doing a long fuse yet, because like I mentioned before, you can end up with things just not, they get too stiff and they're not very flexible. So next I've got the 1D. I'll peel that apart here. It's part of the bill. Put that in place. It's just kind of like how I want it here. I'm going to also do this 1E, since this is kind of telling me whether I have things in the right place or not. I'm going to put this in its spot here, and then I'll decide, do I like the way that's kind of looking there? Looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and just tack it down. Okay, and then the hat. Oh, 1F. I forgot about 1F. Put the wing on. I might just show you in a minute. I've got the light box. I can slip back under here because now I cannot see what I'm doing, which is fine. I can just kind of guess and put it in place and be happy with it. But we'll slip the light box under here. And turn that on. Kind of move these things back in position where I want them. Everything's looking good. And now I can faintly see, I don't know if you can in the video, I can faintly see where that wing needs to go. And it's going right there. And again, I'll just give it a little tack in the middle just to hold it in place for now. Then we'll do the hat with the 1G piece. The hardest part about this sometimes is just getting the paper off. I'm going to put my hat here. just to make sure it stays where I want it when I do the next part of it. I'm going to go ahead and tack it there. And then finally the hat band is going to go on. And this one I can see pretty well. I really don't have to worry about the light box for this part. And I'm going to tack this down. I kind of just hold it for that 2 seconds just like we did. Now I can carefully peel off. Whoops, I didn't get that one stuck as well as I should have. So this is a good process for you to see what I do, but see how this is all coming off and staying together. Okay, let's line things up here again and make sure I have them where I want them to be, and we'll just tack this leg back in place. 1001, 1002 is basically what I was starting to say is all I do. Now it should come off of there and be all together. So my flamingo is all set. I guess I didn't tack that part very well, but that's okay. It's very easy for me to take the whole piece and put it onto my background fabric. So let me finish putting those other flamingos together, and then I'll show you how I do that. Now we come to the fun part, putting our pieces together onto the background. What I have done to begin is I took my background fabric, I folded it in half, and I put a crease with my iron. I went ahead and pressed a crease into the width and also the length. And that helps me to be able to adjust, because our pattern has the center marked. So I'm going to put those creases right on that center mark so it lines up nice and straight with the mark I have on the pattern underneath. So I don't know. Yeah, you can see the center mark there, the vertical and horizontal lines. So I have that nicely lined up. So now I'm going to take my first flamingo and let's move this camera this way so you can actually see what I'm doing here. And then I'm just going to place it onto my background fabric. Let's get these legs to, they didn't tack down when I did that. They fastened to the flamingo, but they didn't tack down where I want them, but I can still see exactly where they need to go. And really the placement is just as a guide, so you don't have to worry about being exact with it. So once I have it where I like it, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carefully lift this up and carry it over to my ironing table. And I'm going to press it down with my iron on top of this just for the 6 seconds that my directions tell me to do. And then I'll go and move the iron down to the other part too and have the first one in place. Okay, so I have my first flamingo ironed into place, and just like we did with the when we put the fusible on the fabrics, I check my edges to make sure that they are all secured. You don't want them sticking up and being loose when you go to actually stitch these down, so just take some time and make sure that your edges are fastened down and secured well. I'm going to line my flamingo back up here, and of course my seams are still lined up, but they're about to disappear behind flamingo number 2. Okay, so we'll put this one down, get these little fine legs in place. Alrighty, and I'm going to repeat the pressing process with the second flamingo and then also the third flamingo. I'm here on my ironing table, and I wanted to take a moment to show you also to be careful. So I have this part, I've pressed it for the 6 seconds, but I want to be careful as I put the iron down that I don't put any more heat onto these already. Remember I talked to you about how these get stiffer the more they're pressed. So I want to be sure that I just carefully set my iron down so that I do not press on the previous flamingo. 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006. And then I will check my edges to make sure they're all down and secure. The little tips of the toes are particularly important, because sometimes, and also the bills, those are things that the little tips tend to be the ones that give you trouble when you're stitching if you don't have them fastened down well. So, all right, I will go ahead now and finish putting my other flamingo on, and then we'll talk about how to do the bunting. Now that I have my flamingos in place, what I'm going to work on is the bunting. So I'm going to move this down where you can see. And what I recommend doing is actually taking, I have a marking pencil here that washes out or erases, whichever I want to do, and go ahead and trace over that line for the bunting. Doesn't need to be a dark line, just enough so you can see it. This will help you, one, with the placement of the bunting, but also you'll have that line in place for stitching by hand, the little string or cord, whatever we want to call it. I'm not worrying about being too precise, but staying on my line for the most part. I view these things as just a guide. It doesn't have to be exact. It's going to be just fine. Okay, so now that I have that down, I need to decide how I want to do my bunting as far as how I want the colors arranged. So let me move here where I can get started on this side. So I'll kind of generally lay them in place here with the light table going. Gotta grab my bunting pieces. Okay, so I've got my bunting pieces, and again I need to take the paper backings off. And since I put that T on the top, I don't have to wonder about which direction they go. So I'm going to start with an orange one here on this one. Then I think I'll do the teal. Now, one of my pattern testers decided to make hers a little more patriotic, and she has done a red and blue bunting that's really quite pretty. Let's see what else. Purple. Let's do yellow next. Kind of adjust a little bit. It looks like I bumped it when I was doing things. So that's one thing you want to check and make sure is that you're still lined up. So I'm going to adjust my buntings just a little bit. Again, as long as they're on that drawn line and they're laying on that drawn line, you're fine. So, oh, let's see, how about the red next? So that will help me too when I take this over to the ironing table to make sure that when I press them on, they are actually resting on that line that I have drawn. And then blue, I haven't done the blue yet. And then I'll continue the same on this side, and have everything pressed, and next I will be ready.